10 million people vanished. Not figuratively, literally. That's how many viewers disappeared from the NCAA Women's Final Four when Caitlin Clark wasn't on the floor. You want ratings? You want star power? This year proved just how much one player can shake the entire sports world. Welcome to Sports Unfiltered, where we don't spin the numbers, we confront them. Let's cut through the noise. ESPN wants you to believe the 2025 Women's Final Four was a historic win. Third most watched since 1995, they proudly proclaimed. But what they conveniently forgot to mention. Last year's Caitlin Clark-led GAWA vs. UCONN Final Four clash drew 14.2 million viewers. This year's UCONN vs. UCLA matchup? Just 4.1 million. That's a jaw-dropping 10.1 million viewer draw. A staggering 71% plunge. Let that sink in. If this were the NFL or NBA, executives would be smashing the panic button. Instead, we get champagne toasts over third place. It's not that this year's numbers are awful in a vacuum. In fact, compared to pre-Clark years, they're solid. But when you're coming off a generational peak, fueled entirely by one player, you can't ignore the elephant-sized crater left behind. Let's look at the receipts. UConn vs. UCLA, 4.1 M. South Carolina vs. Texas, 3.6 M. Last year's Iowa vs. UConn, 14.2 M. Championship in 2024, 18.7 M, more than the men's final. So yeah, we're not talking about a dip. We're talking about a cliff dive. And don't even get me started on ESPN's spin job. Instead of comparing this year's Final Four to last year, they chose 2023, 2 years ago. Why? Because 2024 makes the drop-off too obvious. It's like bragging your restaurant had its third best night since 1995, while ignoring the fact that you just lost 70% of your regulars. Let's talk attendance. First and second round games dropped 30% from last year. Nearly 70,000 fewer fans showed up. Iowa City was the epicenter in 2024, packed to the brim. This year, no Caitlin, no crowds. And yet, amidst all this backpeeling, there's Taurasi, suddenly on the Caitlin Clark fan club roster. You remember her? Reality is coming. She warned Clark before the WNBA. But now, she's hyping up Clark's guest spot on her championship broadcast. Funny how ratings reality changes your tone, huh? So what does all this tell us? Simple. Sports are star-driven. Always have been, always will be. Jordan, Brady, Tiger, Serena, and now, Clark. ESPN and the WNBA can pretend it's about many stars, but here's the raw truth. Casual fans don't show up for depth charts. They show up for supernovas. That's not disrespect to the rest of women's basketball. It's just how the game works. The irony? Embracing Clark's stardom doesn't diminish the sport. It elevates it. Just like Tiger Woods lifted golf, Caitlin Clark brought in millions who never watched a women's game before. Some will stay. Many won't. But the new floor is still higher than the old ceiling. That's the legacy she's already building. And she hasn't even stepped on a WNBA court yet. Now, here's the twist. There's actually a positive story here. Yes, the ratings are down from last year's once-in-a-generation explosion, but they're still up from 2022 and before. That's growth. That's a new normal. The Caitlin effect isn't gone. It's baked in. But to tell that story, you have to be honest first. ESPN wasn't. They treated fans like fools, tried to manipulate the narrative, and got torched for it online. You can't say women's basketball is fine without Clark while shoving her back onto your biggest broadcast. That's not strategy. That's desperation. And yet, through all this, Clark remains the most gracious voice in the room. She hasn't demanded credit. She hasn't clapped back. She's focused on the game and let the numbers do the talking. Because here's the kicker. Reality didn't come for Caitlin Clark. It came for the people who doubted her impact. So let's wrap this up. Viewership plummeted because Clark wasn't there. ESPN tried to cover it up with cherry-picked comparisons. The sport is still growing, but the Clark boost was real and massive. The smartest play now. Lean into it. Use Clark's star to spotlight others and build a long-term audience. Pretending she didn't matter is the actual threat to growth. Honoring her impact while investing in the future. That's the path forward.